Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:02, and I am going to call the City Council meeting, this is actually the City Council study session meeting, to order. Will you please all stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, thank you. I'll go through roll call. We'll start out tonight with Councilman Loy. He has asked to be excused tonight. And online, I believe we have Councilwoman Pedersen. Are you there, Nora?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect, okay. Councilman Lavaca?
Here.
Councilman Kesty?
Present.
Councilman Koch? Here. Councilman Henderson?
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. We will move forward. We're going to start out with something really interesting tonight. So we have special guests. It's the U.S. Small Business Administration. Usually when we think of the SBA, we think of them as providing loans to businesses, but when disasters happen, the SBA has an important role that they play not only for businesses, but for renters and also for homeowners. So we're going to have Carl come up and speak to this. Thank you for being here, Carl.
All right, thank you. Can you all hear me okay on this? Thank you, esteemed council members. Thank you, guests in attendance. My name is Carl Cron. I'm with the Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience, based out of Sacramento in our West Coast Field Operations Center. And we are here because of the declaration involving the 2025 severe winter storms of December and the severe flooding that happened in Washington State, all over the state, obviously. The primary counties that we're addressing: King, Lewis, Skagit, Snohomish, and Whatcom. And on these slides I'll go through, we have what's called disaster loan outreach centers at each of these primary counties. But also you can see on the green sheet in front of you all of these contiguous counties. Now, not just the primary counties, but also the contiguous counties are all eligible for our loan programs, all three loan programs: the business physical loans, the economic injury disaster loans, or EIDLs as we call them, and our home disaster loans, which is recovery for renters and homeowners. So that's good. So we have our little matrix here, just talking about loan limits. You can see the business loans, economic injury loans, home loans for homeowners and renters. And what we really want to talk about is the mitigation caveat that is going to be important, I think, for not just rebuilding, but then rebuilding stronger to be able to hopefully withstand the next disaster. That would be the point of it. Now, there are some requirements. You're going to need to have your favorable credit history and the ability to repay. But we don't make that determination. We just encourage as many people to apply as possible. Once you do your application, you'll be assigned a loan officer, and every situation is going to be unique. So everyone's going to get a tailored experience. So there is no hard, fast limits that we want to really harp on here. Now, you can see the purposes, but also what we want to talk about, the max amount. So you see a little star there, the $2 million. Business loans and EIDL loans limits at to $2 million. But I did hear recently that limit, there was a loan approved for over $2 million. So like I said, it's all situation dependent. So if don't ever, what we say, self-certify. And we just want to get people to the loan outreach centers or on the website applying. For homeowners, that's $500,000 to repair or replace your primary residence. And for renters, that's $100,000 to replace your personal property, including vehicles. Now for the mitigation, we're talking about preventing future loss from an event. Now that's 20% of the verified damage. Now you may have insurance, you may have other means to recoup, you may have a lower loan amount, but if you, for example, if you had $200,000 worth of verifiable damage to your property, you could request an additional up to 20%, so say up to somewhere in that $40,000 range to, add improvements to your property that will mitigate from multitude of disasters. Right, so we're talking about flood mitigation, wildfire, wind tornado, or even earthquake. I don't think we really need to get into too many examples there. I think we'll kind of understand what we're going to mitigate from. And like I said, that 20% of the total disaster damages, there's some good information in here. A study by the National Institute has found that every $1 invested is worth $6. So it's kind of the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's kind of the mindset going into that mitigation effort. Now, there are some requirements But like I said, don't ever let anybody self-certify. We want people to just go through the application process and find out what we can do for them. You need eligibility, credit history, repayment, of course, and insurance requirements are there, but talk with the loan officer to find out what your situation needs. Now, our disaster loan outreach centers, these are the current openings. I think they just added one more, and I can send you an updated list probably as soon as I get out of here. But we have 2 in King County, 1 in Lewis County, 1 in Skagit County here at just the same building upstairs at your city hall. Now, we have all of these outreach centers are staffed by customer service representatives and our field operations specialists, and they're there primarily just to answer questions, to help people through the process. And more importantly, we have workstations, so if someone doesn't have the ability to apply online, they lost their internet, they lost their property, they should go to these outreach centers. They have workstations for them to do their applications on. And of course, here we are in Snohomish County at the library and in Whatcom County at the Sumas Advent Christian Church. And all this information has been emailed digitally, so please, anything else you guys need, just let us know. That's really all I had on this presentation. If you guys have any more questions, please look at the websites here. You have all of our customer service numbers and email, and as well, I'd like to open it up for any kind of questions.
All right. So I see Councilman Koch has a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, welcome, and I think it's great that you're upstairs. I saw the story in the local newspaper to let people know about it. After college, I worked for the SBA in Washington, D.C. for several years, and I became very aware of of the good work you do following disasters. So I appreciate what the SBA does, and welcome to Sedro-Woolley.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Right.
Yeah, we're pleased to be here.
Anyone else? Questions? No? Nora, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, what are the interest rates like on these loans in comparison to conventional loans? Is there a reason that a business would want to go through SBA for one of these loans for mitigation activities?
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question, and that is a huge part of my presentation that I kind of skipped over. So on the green sheet, we can see that there's no credit elsewhere. Those low interest rates are probably where they're going to be a starting point. I've heard that's the majority of loans. But for home loans, so homeowners and renters, that's 2.875% at the lower end. For business loans, that's 4%. And nonprofit organizations, that's 3.625%. Now, there's also favorable terms as far as there's no payment needed for the first 12 months. It's interest-free for the first 12 months. So if you're approved for funding, you don't really need, if you don't think you need to use it, you could hold off on using it, and you can always cancel it and send it back, and you'll never be on the hook for the loan. But otherwise, you have those 12 months, like I said, interest-free, 12 months, no payments, and the low interest rates, and these are all offered through Treasury Department loans.
Go ahead, Councilman Koch.
I remember when I was, it was decades ago when I worked for the SBA, but there was, they were looking into how they deal with people who, I think a case study was in West Virginia where people kept moving back to the same place where they got flooded. I mean, at what point do you say, no, we can't continue to give you loans for a property that's, it's difficult to mitigate?
Yeah, so if the mitigation is difficult, yeah, actually, let me turn that, I think Mary, who has extensive experience with SBA, I think would be a good one for her.
And I worked at SBA in DC. We probably crossed paths.
Right downtown, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to apologize, my apologies. Could you maybe speak into the mic so that those who might be listening would be able to hear? Thank you.
Understood. So sorry. Most people say I don't need a microphone. I'm loud enough. But we require flood insurance if they are in a floodplain, and we require that they have insurance. If they do not or don't maintain it, they can't get another loan. And I understand what you're talking about because I think we were in DC at the same time with those policy changes. But those are really the standards that we do require that they have insurance and maintain it. And does that help out?
Yeah, thank you very much.
I do have additional information I'd like to offer. On the back of the sheet, this fact sheet that I handed out, apologies to people in online attendance, we can get these digital copies to you. But on the back, it does read like frequently asked questions, and one of them is like, you can use the funds to relocate. So if you need to use these funds to pivot your business and relocate to hopefully a different area in the county and, maintain your business, at least customer base, but it gives you a chance to pivot, relocate, and start your business again.
Homeowners as well, if they can't rebuild.
Yeah, same for homeowners as well, relocation assistance there.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Really appreciate you being here. How much longer are you guys going to be upstairs for people to be able to come in? And then after you leave, can people apply for these loans online? And what's the cutoff date based on our declaration of emergency?
Thank you. Yes, the cutoff dates for physical damage would be April 27th in 2026, and for economic injury on November 24th in 2026. Now, there's also a 60-day grace period that follows that to apply online. You don't have to go to the DLOC to apply. It's just they're there to help you. As far as when will the outreach centers close, that's based on the need, how many people they're seeing as far as traffic, and if it's basically a ghost town for a couple weeks up in the DLOCs, then they might consider closing them. But until there's we would say enough engagement, and we would think that we've hit enough customers, that determines by the field operations center. So it is flexible. We are here on open-ended travel. We're here we're here to work until the job is done.
Thank you.
I know you had mentioned that when you and I were talking, Carl, that the traffic in and out hasn't really been steady, or there hasn't been a lot of it yet within the center that you have here at City Hall. I don't know if you have had opportunity to maybe even reach out to the library or to the Chamber of Commerce, where they actually do other outreach. They have connections. I can tell you, Dan Owen, who is sitting right behind you, will be sitting right behind you. He is the librarian, and so he might be a good connection as well. But because I know that that's really important, and that's why you're here, so that people who are in need have that opportunity to get questions answered and hopefully get the funding that they need to reestablish business in their home. So
Yeah, absolutely. And
Well, we are doing outreach, and
it's a little slow to start. I don't want to. So this would be probably this is my first field trip as it were. But I know that the outreach is happening. We just had a luncheon with the Chamber of Commerce here in Sedro-Woolley, and same information is put out, flyers,
Excellent,
cards.
okay.
So it is starting. It does a little bit slow to start. We do hope to increase that traffic, but that is our job as PS, is to bring the customers to the DLOCs.
excellent.
so if you don't mind.
Of course not.
So any opportunity to be in front of the right crowds not the right crowd, any crowd that needs to hear the message that this is available, we are open to. Whether it's webinars here on your live stream, please, this is your community. We're here to help you and support you. Our customer service reps will be here to help guide those applicants, because it can be a little daunting. But it's been a minute since the floods in December. And that usually means people think, well, I've already started my repairs now. But we can actually help them potentially get rid of that short-term expensive debt. It is possible, just like relocation, on a case-by-case basis, it's possible that we can help them dig out of that, get rid of that credit card debt they've been using to rebuild. So if you can help get that word out, we might see an increase, I hope.
That would be
That helps.
fantastic. I know there's people in need of that. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor?
That's great. Yes, go ahead. Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you. I know that our community was affected in part, but the majority of the incident for the flood ended up happening upriver and maybe over there towards Burlington side, and I know that you guys are probably visiting those areas. Is there a time that you guys are going to those areas that maybe we can assist to post online for people to have like more awareness of?
Well, we could definitely use the assistance to schedule those, but right now we have a tentative schedule, and our work involves reaching out, setting up the meetings, and then we just build our calendar as we go. So we don't have hard and fast times for traveling to these cities, but we are going to touch every community in each county.
Yeah, because Hamilton,
If you have a time that you think we should go, we will coordinate with you and do that. And Carl can give you his business card, if that's all right with you.
Please do. You got some contacts upriver. The mayor of Hamilton would love to probably sit down with you, and they were affected greatly. A lot of businesses there took on water, and so
Excellent.
this would be a great opportunity for a lot of them.
Yeah, especially when we're in an area that's unfamiliar to us personally.
Yeah.
We rely on networking through, obviously, local networks that are already established.
I got a
So
bunch for you
your
then.
assistance would be greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Any and all help you all can give us to get this message out. And that's what we're partially here to brief you on what we have, but ask for your help. You have constituents, you have your networks. And when I was growing up in a small town in Oklahoma, we had 3 modes of communication: telephone, telegraph, and tell my father, who is your version of my father, that can get that message out. So please help us get that. The center, the busier it is, the more we can commit to you and those kinds of things. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. So thank you. And did you give them all your cards?
I do have a stack of business cards on the table. I will make sure I hand them out to everybody. I left these sheets as well, printed in English and Spanish. And of course, anything you guys need digitally, I'll be more than happy to send. And we did just create these fact sheets in multiple languages like Ukrainian, Vietnamese, and things like that. So, because for the diversity of Washington.
Very good. All right. Are there any other questions? If not, thank you again for being here. Thank you for coming and giving a presentation, making us aware of how we can actually work together to help the citizens be successful in getting questions answered and hopefully get loans that they need for their businesses and homes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Okay, so moving on, let's see, we do not have unfinished business to deal with tonight, so new business is where we are headed. And the first item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to turn this over to Director Glover to lead us through this.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So what I'd like to do is discuss with you process, really. I did send out an invitation to you guys to comment on the plan, and I did receive comments back, and I really appreciate that. When we're putting this together, it's not just the public input that we want to get, but we also want to get council's input. You see things that we might not see, right? So to that end, you did. And so to that end, I really appreciate your help. What I'd like to do tonight, my purpose was to include those comments to you all so you have a chance to look at them. What I'd like to do is now work with my staff and our consultant team to come up with suggested edits to the plan that address each of the comments, and then bring that document back to you for our joint meeting with the Planning Commission on April 1st. Of course, we'll get that into your packets ahead of time so you have a chance to look at the revisions, and we'll mark those revisions like with red, bold, so you can see what changed. But also tonight I wanted to take, if there's any additional comments you want to make, please let me know now. And between now and April 1st, if you have additional comments or thoughts or questions, please contact me and let me know.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you very much to Tom for doing all this and working so much on it with Facet. It's been very good. Yeah, you saw that I put through some comments. I'd like to take the opportunity, if it's all right, to discuss some of these with the council, so that way we know when you're going back what's going to keep going and what's not going to keep going. There's been some things that we've had agreements on, but like you said, we never made motion on it, or you didn't really know how we felt. So I would like to kind of go through some of these items and see, does the council agree or not agree? And that would allow you to be able to work with the consulting agency and the rest of your staff more timely to be able to get that stuff done. That way we're not going back and forth. That's first. One of the things that I had on there, if you guys saw in the comments, we have the first thing, the land acknowledgement on page 3, before we get into the pages, or it's numerical code. And so there's a land acknowledgement, but there was no feedback or anything that was submitted by the tribes. And so we had actually put forth a number of times that we would like to see that removed. At least that was my thought, the consensus from the council. So I just want to see if we could put a motion forward. I'll put a motion forward to have that removed from the comp plan.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Lavaca, seconded by Councilman Henderson, to remove the land acknowledgement from the comp plan. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Opposed?
Okay,
Opposed?
all right. So it carries 3-2 with Councilman Koch and Councilwoman Pedersen opposing. Okay,
On page 42 of the comp plan, the housing element reads, "The housing element must ensure." Now, that's probably due to an RCW or bill that went through. But it says we must ensure that Sedro-Woolley has the capacity and policy in place to accommodate the current and projected housing needs of households across the full range of economic and demographic groups through the year 2045. Now, this calls for roughly 1,200 homes to be built within that 0 to 50% range, and we can't guarantee that. So the must, I'm unclear on where that comes from, and that might be a discussion that the consulting agency has. I know that we've had a discussion about it. It seemed like the planning commission in some of the meetings I've heard were concerned with that as well. We're not able to do what we're putting in there. And so maybe a word like strive or encourage or should strive to, something of sorts, that would be beneficial, I think, to the comp plan and for people reading it to understand it more, what we're able to actually do. I don't know if the council has. And then, so there was a thought that if we were to maybe allow the developers to get a percentage of their units put into that 80% AMI, we would give them a tax break or we would give them some sort of, compensation of some sort. In order to do that, that would mean 9,600 homes would need to be built here in Sedro-Woolley or units to give 10% of those to those areas. Not all of them would come from the 10%, but it's an unattainable goal. And so it doesn't really leave a lot there. It might meet a bit of the goal, but it doesn't necessarily meet, I think, what we're seeing with all of it combined. So we're saying must up there, but the elements that are laid out don't really lay out something that would accommodate that 1,200 homes under the 50 AMI. Obviously, something to be discussed. It does talk about consider waiving the fees of donations and surplus lands also being provided. Those would come at, obviously, a taxpayer's expense. Giving the nonprofits and developers more funding, that would be likely NGOs with heavy cost and admin costs, and usually it's prevailing wage, so the cost to build per unit is pretty high. So definitely something to think about there. On the traffic side of that element, we do put in that we want to reduce the traffic, but we put a lot on the employers for reducing that traffic. And so we really don't solve the problem besides that the employer will solve the problem. So if the employer is responsible to solve the problem of our traffic or reduce that by making people stay home from work and work from home or encouraging it's what they say, having transit and subsidies for that to give them taxpayer money, have telework, that kind of stuff. We're kind of dictating how the employer does their job. So that was confusing on the comp plan. I'm not sure how that would work out as far as something. I don't know if the council's got anything on that, but a lot of the requirements for the reducing traffic is heavily placed on the employer and not placed on maybe education to the citizens on the city's part to send out flyers or relying maybe on Skagit Transit to advertise themselves. And putting that out there for the employers is good, and I can see a line in there. Employers should or encourage employers to support that action, but almost everyone in a big way is heavily leaning on the employer. That would add a substantial cost to the employer. We are seeing that a number of these areas or businesses are not super stoked with that. We did have the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was put in place, but it looked like it ended in 2026. So I didn't really clearly see how that was laid out for the next 5 years, but there was some pretty aggressive motions in the next 5 years to make that happen. I don't know if you guys saw that in there too, or if we're just having it in there just as a base point, or if it's just something that we actually have that plan to accommodate those 5 years with funding. But we can keep going, of course. There's the investigate with the upper tribe, the possibility of building a longhouse in the appropriate location in the city. which could be used by the tribes for ceremonial events and by the city as center of culture exchange. Why would that be in there as a comp plan if we didn't get any feedback from any of the tribes or any culture centers to suggest that, if they didn't weigh in? If they have weighed in and made the request, then that would be interesting and something I would add into here to say, based upon feedback from what we sent forth in collaboration, we look to work with the tribes to see about building this center or building a log house.
Can I say something?
Councilman, yes,
Yeah,
Councilman.
the log house thing, when I worked at Western Washington University, you're right, you have to work closely with the tribe, because if you don't, you're not getting it right. And Western, and I think it's also true, they did it individually at the University of Washington and other colleges and universities. They have a longhouse now up at Western, and they got some funding through the legislature and also funding from the tribe. So you're right, you can't even begin to discuss it without having a long, it took us years, so it's not something that happens overnight.
It'd be
I
interesting to
can address
pursue.
this particular thing, I think, was left over from the 2016 version. It was just something I didn't catch. It was in a different section. It was also referenced in the economic development section along with a couple other things, and I took those out too because they're dated. They're not relevant to what we're doing.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, there was a couple of things in there, so that's awesome. That'll be removed. And then continue to maintain the Parks and Rec. I think that we should start to do that. We really haven't maintained that in the website and advertisement. We built them up. The Homestead is amazing. Winnie Hauser is amazing. The Memorial Park's amazing. But as far as like the website aspect of it, where it says maintain the recreation webpage, that's something I think that we'd love to see. But I think it's something to say maybe create or start to work on. Construction of an indoor, this is policy, this is page 127, policy P2 .10, construct indoor covered sports courts for year-round use. If this is policy, that's something that now we are required to do, right? If I understand that right? So if it's not saying like consider
These
or.
are all suggestions.
Oh, but
They're
it's
not
under
mandatory.
policy and it doesn't say
Right.
consider, or it says actually construct.
Yeah, but it's a consideration.
So you'll change the wording on there to a consideration?
I'll have to
'cause
go back and take a look at the exact wording. It might be
Yeah.
okay the way it is.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's in there. It does say, I'm just reading it as it is, construct indoor covered sports courts for year-round use, which
Yeah,
is almost
policies
like
and goals.
Yeah. Policies usually in municipal code is something that you're now doing, or that's your.
We'll
you
be
know,
taking a look at all these
sweet.
and coming back to you on April 1st.
Awesome. You're rocking. And then a couple of things in here. You already said you dealt with the economic. We had some parks in there that seemed outdated. There was the projects that are designed parks for north side of the city, identify land and purchase for future development of parks at the north side. Memorial Park renovation 2019 through 2020. That was 2018 through 2022. Hauser Park and Playfield 2019 through 2022. All that's already done, right? So is that going to be coming out, or is that?
This is Bill's section of the plan. I'll get with Bill and see what needs to be changed.
Yeah, there was a couple in there. I wrote a number of those in there that were there. One of them that caught my eye was page 136, and it said that the State Street properties adjacent to Memorial Park in 2018 to 2023. There are 3 land holdings adjacent to Memorial Park fronting on State Street that are not owned by the city. These properties obstruct visual connection to the park from the State Street and generally present safety, unability, and access issues for the park. So the idea is to buy them and it looks like tear them down, but we're in a housing shortage. So it seems like something that we probably wouldn't want to do. And if we do want to buy it, maybe don't advertise it in the comp plan, but later on propose the idea that we want it and get a better deal that way, at least.
Yeah, again, we're going to be looking at all these comments with staff and be coming up with suggested changes where it's necessary.
Yeah, my understanding was that the workshop meeting that we were having today, you were getting comments so that we can discuss these.
Yeah, we got, we didn't get specific edits as I had hoped.
Awesome. There is a future growth modeling, and it's for the Makers District, the MD zone. I've had some really good conversations with you on that. There's a number of places in there. We've had some discussions on the Makers District, and it does say that, and one of these guys here, pretty clearly what the idea there is to make it into
It's on page 23.
Yes. So, and intended to create an aesthetic and welcoming entrance to the CBD zone, so Central Business District. This zoning designation provides full for light manufacturing, retail, professional services, restaurants, and retail use. And the idea is it sounds really good on a map, like if you're just looking at an empty piece of property and you're seeing the roundabouts and it comes through, and yeah, I can see that. That does make sense. It'd be great for retail and stuff like that. But right now, somebody does own it. And then the other thing is that we're a manufacturing community. We always have been. You know, Leavenworth has their niche, Paulsbo has their niche, Port Townsend has their niche. There's a lot of niche communities out there that have their thing. And ours has really been innovation and technology from the beginning, from, you know, logging and milling wood off the hillsides to Skagit Steel and the McIntyres, what they've done, to Sedron now wanting to build up over there. So I would want to make a motion to remove the whole Makers District idea.
Before you do that, let me jump in. First of all, that's been in there since the 2010 plan, so the past 16 years. This allows the property there, the property owner, regardless of who owns it, added development rights that they wouldn't have in a regular industrial zone. So if you make a motion to remove that, you're taking away their development rights. I would urge caution.
So
there.
we're adding it into this plan. It's not in 2016, as you pointed out.
It is added in
The Makers
2016 and
District
20.
is in there.
The rights are, the overlay zone is.
The overlay, so I'm saying not changing anything from the 2016. Don't change the TMCO, don't change anything, don't add the Makers District, the MD, don't rename it.
As I
Keep-
said
keep
before,
what's
though,
in
I'd
there
like
as
to hear
is.
from the property owner on that, and I've not heard from the property owner on that.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is you're making the choice to change it now
Not
to
changing
MD.
anything. The rights would be the
So let's
development
keep
rights
the
would be the
wording
same.
TCMO, or
We're removing the
TCMO.
overlay zone, but we're adding those uses to that industrial zone.
So I guess what I'm saying, Tom, is that why change it at all? Let's keep it the same as 2016, and if the property owner wants to come to the council and, you know, petition the council to rezone it because there's this vision or this idea or get more access, then that discussion could be made with the
Well, I
the
think that's
city.
micromanaging the zone a bit too much there. You're adding, by keeping it as an overlay zone, you're adding an extra layer of review. This simply removes that extra layer of review and allows those as allowed uses in the zone without extra development review from staff.
Yeah, it hasn't been clearly
Easier for the
understood, so I would say it would be my purview, according to the comp plan that was already in existence, the 2016, that doesn't mention Makers District, to keep it as it is. This language is different than what's in the 2016. It doesn't say this, it says encourage, or it doesn't say the same wording.
It's nearly identical, and to the 2010 plan, too.
Councilwoman Pedersen?
Hi, I just wanted to chime in here a little bit. I'm new to the city council, and I know that our city staff and our planning commission has been working on this plan for over a year, and I want to thank them for that work. And I know that the council, the former council, has put a lot of work into this too. In my reading of the plan, it doesn't require the city to further restrict the industrial use of that property, so I don't see an issue with it as is.
Go ahead, Councilman Cobb.
I mean, since this hasn't been, still up in the air, it sounds to me pretty logical to go to it's a single property owner, and to go to the single property owner and say, which one do you prefer? And just go with that.
We've had those discussions 3 times so far. They've not requested that it be changed or kept the same.
So we have an email chain that was sent to you in discussion on that. And in that email chain, there was discussion the day before a public hearing, and they pointed out they weren't even invited to the public hearing, the one property owner. So it was in the
Didn't come
paper,
from the
it wasn't
property owner. That
certain
came from
areas.
somebody else that works for them.
The property manager manages property.
Okay, but
for
I
the
need to
person.
hear from the property owner. And
Well,
I've
I don't understand why
provided
you
them ample
need to
opportunity.
hear from the property owner when
Because
we're
he
doing
owns
the
the
comp plan.
property.
But he's not asking to have the zone changed
He's not asking for it to be changed or to have this
or not to
removed.
be changed. So what I'm saying
he
as
would
a
not-
councilman is not to change it.
Pretty sure, okay. Well, that would be a council decision.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
I
why
would,
I'm
I would
trying to-
encourage council to wait until they've got the joint meeting with the planning commission on April 1st. Otherwise, we're taking away the work of the planning commission. I would not recommend that.
By April 1st, you will have added your seventh council person, and you will also have Mr. Loy back, so to have that discussion.
Right.
Right, well, I've had a lot of good discussion with you on this topic, and it makes no sense to me. And I've gotten emails
I
that come
understand
in,
that.
and it doesn't make any sense to the property manager. Of course, the property owner, I would imagine, has the largest goods producing company above the Snohomish, and that's just one of the companies he owns, not including that company he wants to do there. So having time to come and talk, that's why he has people that manage properties for him, I would imagine. But I think that if that's the case, then that's the case.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Kesty? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Henderson? Well, I'll know I heard her voice, so, yeah.
So, to the fact of the Makers District, I'm starting to understand a little bit more about the both sides. I actually went and had a meeting with the property owner, and the intent that I received from him was using the property for industrial use. So if that's the direction that the property owner wants to go in the nature of economic development for our city, I think that we should take a look at how to best implement that land usage into the comp plan. I can reach out and try and get another meeting and see if we can talk some more about what the plan is for the property. But the mixed use for what he was saying is his business purposes wouldn't allow for, like the apartments above commercial style, like for a mixed use commercial style of layout with the machinery moving around and all those other kinds of things. Now, there is an idea and a plan for, beautifying the area and having nice walking trails going around and stuff like that. But I mean, that's a little bit further down the road. But the first thing that I think we need to iron out is the intended land use and have that included in the comp plan. So when we get to the land use element after the comp plan, it's a little bit more seamless. I think if we have this discussion with the planning commission, I think that would be a good forum to know the direction in which we need to go. Because I hear what you're saying. I think me and you are both saying the same things, and we're just saying them a little bit differently. But I think that if we do that joint meeting with the planning commission, they might have some ideas to help move that in the direction that makes the most financial sense for the owner and for our economy.
I would prefer that if we could wait till we had that joint meeting with the planning commission. And in the meantime, if the property owner wants to come talk to us, we're right here, so.
And Charlie, if I may, would we be able to have the property owner or public comment at that public hearing at that meeting? We're going to do a joint meeting and then have the property owner there to talk about this subject.
That is included in, public comments always included in
Well,
all
public
the meetings.
comment's different than public hearing. So
Well,
public hearing would be
It's not
specific.
gonna be a
to
public hearing, it's gonna be a
It'd be-
joint session.
Yeah, it's,
But they can, of course, be there to comment on their property, sure.
can we have them at the table or not just sit in the background and then come up and say 3 minutes and then, wait all day to do so, but actually at the table, or?
It's ultimately the council's meeting, so it's your choice if that's what the council desires, then.
I would make a
there's the
motion
option
for
of-
that, and if someone wants to oppose it, I mean, you don't want a whole council, but if somebody has another
Councilman Kopp has a
idea.
comment?
I think that's a good idea, especially since we're talking about a single owner who's a major economic force in the community. I would make a formal invitation from the mayor and council to attend the meeting.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Have them at the table and here.
And also too, this is a good opportunity to hear whatever concerns they might have.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councilwoman Pedersen.
I just wanted to chime in and say, I agree. I think in this case, that would be appropriate, just because I think we've all taken so much time on this, and I think everyone on the council is concerned about increased administrative burdens. And I think that's what we're starting to see here, and I think it's just a, kind of a misunderstanding. You know, I don't think there's anyone that's really in disagreement on the content or what the future use of that property will be in the near future with the current property owner. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kesty?
Thank you. Since Peter did come to the meeting and speak, I think it's very appropriate to send an invitation as well and have him come tell us what his vision is for the property and how we can make that work in the comp plan. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right. So continuing on. So the city has the manufacturing set up at growing to 508 employees for 2045. There seems like there's a lot more than that in Sedro-Woolley just for what we have today. And I think these numbers might not be accurate. And definitely if somebody plans on building an entire industrial place, or my hope is if he doesn't want to do it, somehow we can convince him to keep industrial and build out manufacturing jobs. They pay a lot better. They're better for the community. That would definitely increase that number. And so that would be something to consider. And then for the climate element, there's I would like to see if we can add the cost of that climate element in there. We got a $500,000 grant for that element alone. It's the first time the state required that element. I think we're up to $400,000 used, so people should see when they read
We're
through
at
it.
$217,000.
Then we approved last session to go forward with
There's
passage to
additional
give them.
funding that's available. We may or may not use all of it, yes,
I thought we were paying back bills. That's what my
as
understanding
much
was.
as we can. But
With the
I
money.
don't know what that amount is yet.
Okay, from the sound at the meeting, they had $50,000 that was possibly new business and then back pay
Right.
for work that had
Right,
been done.
which may or may not add up to 500,000.
Yeah, I think what it was said or suggested it was 400,000. But
no.
I do put that in here too, Tom, that it says 286, because that's what it said in the plan, unless more is needed, in which case the number should be updated to the amount that the comp plan's voted in. So tit for tat. It'd be whatever amounts that we've used so far when the comp plan's complete. When they read through that, they can say, okay, the state gave taxpayer money to this city to develop this, and then, obviously we've done that for every city. So it's just good business practice. People see where their money goes, right? And then adding in various other notes, to page 241, adding in, we have human influence has likely increased the chance of compound extreme events since 1950. Concurrent to the repeat climate hazards have occurred in all regions, increasing impact and risk to health, ecosystem, infrastructure, and livelihood, and flood. And that's cited specifically by the PCC. Human activities, and then I would add in, if it's allowable or if it's permissible by the council or suggestive, add in such as the dramatic increases in coal-fired power plants in China and other third world countries. We've seen a massive increase of that. A lot of the nation's efforts in the western side, in the western hemisphere, have been diluted with the massive amount of coal that's being burned on the eastern side. So it's counterintuitive to itself, and it's you can't go without noting it. And then other natural climate variables I would add in, like an increase in volcanic activity, which we have seen a pretty substantial increase over the last 70 years, and that would also include St. Helens. And then rather than saying are drivers of climate change, I would say maybe drivers of climate change. There may be also other elements as well, or along with other things. And then use recycle, this is policy again, use recycled material in the construction or transportation and infrastructure facilities. of transportation and other infrastructure facilities. Maybe we can add whenever feasible to do so. And then the last one was the other policy that says prioritize converting public fleets to a zero-emission vehicle. And I was hoping that maybe we can write, investigate through feasibility studies the cost to prioritize converting our public fleets to zero-emission vehicles, because it could be costly or it might not. I hear the maintenance on them's cheaper than a regular vehicle, and that besides tire wear, which is because it's heavier, the batteries and the service actually holds up. So it might be something where people actually see that it does save money in the ER&R fund of the 20-year balance. So something that the feasibility study, I think, would do.
Mayor,
Coun-
can
Councilman
I comment
Henderson?
on that last one? So the converting public fleets to zero-emission vehicles, we did that study, and it over in Burlington, and it did not pan out very well. There's a few things that it does work with, like for instance, buses that have scheduled routes, so you can calculate what your distance is per miles based on what your charge rate is. But to have our public works guys hop in the truck and go out to work for the day, not knowing when and where they're going to be, what they're going to have to tow, stuff like that. Almost our entire public works division, they said, yeah, there's not really anything we can do for you. There's maybe a street sweeper option that's electric using planned routes again. But the cost of that electric street sweeper was almost 3 times what a diesel one is, so it didn't pan out. And then the addition, we did a site survey for the charging stations for all of it too, and we couldn't get enough 3-phase power to our shops to reliably charge a full or even a half fleet conversion to electric. But there is a great use for like the cars here at City Hall that are just used around town. And not constantly used, because a lot of the people in planning and engineering work out of their offices, and then they'll have to go out to go do something and come back. And that seemed like more of an okay use for the vehicles, especially since they're not the heavier trucks that need 3-phase charging, like 480 for like the electric dump trucks that they were suggesting we buy. Or actually didn't suggest we buy, but that kind of, I mean, it'd be nice to look into it, because I think we have like a state law by like 2035 or something, like we're not gonna sell new cars in this state anymore that are gas or diesel, or I don't remember what year it was, but 2030, okay, yeah. Ooh. So anyways, some of the fleet, sure, and I mean that could almost be a study we could do on our own. I mean that's a feasibility study that we can look at it and say, okay, what are our needs, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that our Public Works department would probably take up doing, and we can certainly change that language, encourage or look into or study or something like that. Yeah. So, and we can, most of this, I don't want us to get caught up on, shall, using the word shall. Policies are look into or explore or encourage. We've got a comp plan to get across the line. And then we also have, we'll be looking at this, I talked to Charlie about this, each year to go back and see where we're at with this. But the state also requires every 5 years that we do an analysis of the plan and the policies and goals and see how far we got or if things are working. Also, I would say that after adoption of the plan, however it turns out in its final form, there is each year through the planning profession, there are groups that lobby through AWC for changes to legislature, proposed changes to the legislature on certain policies. Sometimes they go back and review things that have been adopted that aren't working, that sort of thing. So there is a chance for us to, in time, as we see things that are working or not working, to get that feedback to the legislature and advocate for changes to some of the requirements that they've approved. No guarantee, but you don't know unless you try, so. So I guess the point is that we will be checking as we go along annually and then every 5 years too, to see how well these are working or not working.
Councilman Cock?
Yeah, I do agree. I think a lot of the technology for electric vehicles is rapidly evolving, but it might not be cost effective. I know Skagit Transit looked at it for their hybrid buses, but they didn't have the infrastructure in place, and it cost a lot of money. But I will say there is another moral side to this, and that's the air pollution. For example, diesel particulates have been directly connected to asthma, especially in children. I think that we owe it to our world to have a cleaner place. The oceans, they're studying, it's being acidified by all the pollution landing in it. So I think we have a duty to our future, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, to have a cleaner world. And that's why I think and also the technology is evolving. You had mentioned China. Yeah, they got a ton of coal-fired plants, but they are leading the United States in the development of clean energy. New York Times had a huge story about how, I think it's in their, I get backwards, in Asia, in their Western, they put in hundreds of wind-powered things and huge, like thousands and thousands of acres of solar panels, and with these huge cables shifting that. So they're looking there too. So people are even looking at different ways to propel ships. So it's just an interesting changing, but I think we need to have a cleaner world for our children.
Thank you. Councilman Kesty?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Nick for all of the hard work that you put into this, because you truly did go through everything. And the hard work all the council and the staff has put into it. And I just also want to remind that I too see a lot of problems within it, but I very much like the disclaimer that can go in the front and every couple years when we're looking through it. And the disclaimer in what I was bringing forward is kind of not your get out of jail free, but this is the Woolley way, and this is how we look at things that are going to be best for our town, even though Olympia is trying to make a one size fits all. So that's how I view that. With every little thing that might have to be pushed in there, we get the last word. So that's it.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Yeah, I actually, she beat me to the punch, but I wanted to dive into that disclaimer a little bit. It seems well written, and is that something that we can add to our comp plan?
Yeah, we'll talk about that internally, either to the plan or to the ordinance that the plan.
Oh, okay.
Do we need to make a motion to do that, or are you going to talk? And then
I'd
bring it
rather wait
forward?
till we get all of these things sorted out and then bring it back to you on the first, yeah.
So to clarify, because this is my first comp plan that I've done, so. So we approve the comp plan, and then we approve an ordinance to approve?
There will be an ordinance that we present to you. You've seen the first draft of it, and adopting that ordinance adopts the comp plan.
I see.
Yeah.
So instead of leaving this language within the binder of the comp plan?
Well, we might put it in there. I mean, it could fit under the introduction part of the plan.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and to Nick's comment about the costs of that, we've had a couple of grants, and my thought would be to put, in the ordinance, we have the whereas the city received grants for this and that, and this, it was at this cost, and this is what it was used for. We could do something like that in the ordinance. That would be an appropriate place for that. Just
Okay,
thinking
thank
out
you.
loud.
Councilman LaVaca?
Oh, I was gonna say, so the comp plan isn't isn't necessarily the legal document. So I think we all understand that. We're not, nobody's voting to change the zone.
Oh, it's a legal document.
Well, it's a legal document for sure. It's going to the state, but we're not changing the zone. We're not changing policy. What we're doing is we're setting precedents for the municipal code changes when they come back and say, according to the comp plan, you guys are saying that you are going to aim this direction. This is the North Star you're aiming over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why I'm really trying to get this wording correct, guys. And I don't
understand
mean to
that.
be a pain about this, but a hearing examiner will use the comp plan. The comp plan will come back and say, you guys agreed to this, and now you want to put this in your ordinance. A sub-document, that's different. The main thing you agreed to, that's where that disclaimer should be. That's where the price should be. That's where the main things is. From there, the sub-documents or the approvals of ordinances and changes in municipal code based upon that comp plan falls downhill. So forgive me for nitpicking it through or really trying to get this right. I just know that it's a 20-year plan. We can amend it every year. We go back over every 5 years, every 10 years. We get in there and we really hash it out. But it is something that will be our marching orders. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you very much for doing that.
Councilwoman Kesty?
Thank you. So going back to the disclaimer really quick, that could then be put on the face of that and also in the whereas.
Yeah, I
that you
think
were-
if we, yeah, I'm thinking about it more. I think maybe both places.
Okay, because that was my intent.
Yeah, I'd
When
understand.
you open
Yeah.
the document, I want you to see it
Yeah,
bold.
right.
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Final thoughts? Final thoughts regarding next steps, I should say?
Yeah, so, like I said, we'll go back to our lab, as we say, and with our staff and with our consultant team, and we'll take a look at the comments that we have and start putting those edits into the comp plan and do that in a way that you can see where we've made those changes and present that back to you on council in your packet for the April 1st meeting.
All right.
April 1st, no fooling.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
Thank you and to your staff for all the hard work you
Yeah.
guys are putting into this.
Thank
I know
you.
you
And
put
thanks
hours
for
and
your
hours in.
feedback. Yeah, thank you.
And Facet as well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
good people. All right, then moving on to item number 2, which is the Senior Center update and guiding principles. Again, this is something that's received a lot of work over the last couple of weeks as this has come forward to us. What are we going to do about our seniors and making sure that they are given the nutritional food that they deserve? So Charlie, do you want to take this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Johnson, Council, good evening. So we've got a lot of information in the packet this evening. I'm not going to cover it all verbatim, but I'll go through the highlights. This is a pretty complicated issue, the way that it's just kind of evolved with the county. The first thing is relatively simple. You saw at a prior meeting the amendment to the interlocal agreement that would end the interlocal agreement at the end of June. Fairly straightforward. The county, the spokesperson who was here wasn't super clear on whether the county would be willing to extend the interlocal agreement for senior services. But since then, I've had follow-up conversation with her, and the county's drafting an interlocal agreement for the 6 months from July 1st to the end of the year. So assuming the county commission approves that, assuming you all approve that, we'll have that coverage until the end of the year. And then we'll need to figure out what to do starting in 2027. So that piece is in progress. We still need to consider the interlocal agreement amendment. That's on for next week. So what you're going to see here is this particular item is kind of, I tried to put it all in there as much as I know at this current moment. We'll continue to update that, but there are going to be a bunch of different action items that kind of come out of this as time goes along. So that's the first piece of it. I think that's the easiest problem to solve, at least in terms of keeping senior services going. The meal program is a different story. So the meal program ends at the end of June, and there's a situation where the county has ceased to fund their portion of the meal program going forward. The amount for that was $800,000 in their budget on an annual basis. There's an RFP out there that NWRC, the Northwest Regional Council, has issued. They're a partner in all of this with the county that would revise the meals program and take the amount down below $600,000. So about $550 is what I heard this afternoon. So there's a big open question on this one because there's an RFP that went out The deadline for the responses was today. I haven't heard anything. NWRC is an organization we haven't worked with in the past, so we're just kind of getting to know their staff. I've been asking the county a lot of questions, the county staff, trying to get my arms around what's going on with NWRC, what's a new contract look like with them, because it's not, the county's not involved now. So is it the cities working directly with NWRC? Is it the cities contracting with a new provider? There are a lot of open questions. And then what are the costs of those? And there's a real possibility there are no responses to the RFP, in which case the NWRC is going to try to work with a provider, like they can then outreach to a provider directly. But we don't know the cost of any of these things. And it's also clear that the meal program, the way it's currently configured with this RFP won't be what it was previously. It'll be somewhat pared down. There's also a gap here. So the county is, backed out of its $800,000 portion. It's now down to maybe $540,000. Is it up? How much of this is up to the cities to make up? A lot of open questions there, and could create a significant budget deficit for the city that I was just guessing at last week when I wrote this. Could be in the $150,000 to $200,000 a year range if we were to pick up meals for all of the seniors in the county as well as the city. Based on some of the numbers I'm getting today, I should be able to refine this. I think that number will come down somewhat, but it's still, there are some real policy questions in this about, which meals the city steps up to provide if we're going to provide funding to this effort. So more to come on that, but we need to get moving on this piece. This is really time sensitive, so that's what I told the county staff today. We somehow need to get engaged directly with NWRC, and they need to want to engage with us to get this conversation rolling in, I'd say, the next few weeks, or we're going to be really up against the clock, and we don't want to have a break in service for seniors. My recommendation in here is we somehow find a way to fund the shortfall, assuming that it's manageable, and we'll just have more conversation on that coming. So as we get information, we'll bring it to you, but right now, still, this is an area that the county completely managed, and the county doesn't have data on how many city residents versus county residents received meals or any of that. So they are, I've asked them, and they've agreed they're going to do some surveying to try to get us more information. But that's where it currently stands. So it's very hard to split it out and figure out exactly even where financial burdens should fall in this conversation. And then you add in there are 4 cities involved that are also part of this countywide system that are all wrestling with this situation. And to the degree that they can work together, we're certainly reaching out to the other cities and encouraging that, because we are stronger together, particularly in a situation like this where the county just decides not to provide services anymore that our residents have been counting on. So that's the contract for the meal program. That is my biggest concern right now. That's the most pressing issue. I think the first one I mentioned is relatively straightforward to solve. Then there's this question of future county funding, and we're meeting with Commissioner Wiesen on the 16th of March to have a discussion about that. He's coming out to all the cities. The county has offered several different options for what a funding model might look like in the future. To the county's credit, the county is offering to assist in still funding senior services. So that part is good. It could be worse. I've seen counties completely get rid of the entire thing they're doing. So it's at least good that that's not the case. I did break down the different options the county has provided us in a attached spreadsheet to this agenda item. And there's actually one scenario where we come out a little bit ahead. So that is if we took money for a full FTE from the county, which is one of the things that they offered. Because if you look at our expenses for the senior center, the staffing expenses are the biggest part. Intend to negotiate with the county somewhat on this. I would love to hold together with the cities, trying to find out from the other cities what's the best looking option to them. I sent them our information. It's obviously public. It's already out here with you all, to see if we can maybe come together on some kind of agreement and work together to negotiate with the best deal with the county we can together. But if not, we'll need to figure out on our own what our option's going to be and how we're going to proceed with that. So that's the county funding agreement part of this. So these are all separate negotiations. The last one is a really important one as well, which is how are we going to provide services after 2027? So the county has said, we'll provide funding, but we're not going to provide the services anymore at that point. So once we get into, I should say after 2026. So once 2027 starts, we have to have this figured out. There's an opportunity for the cities to work together in this, and every city's got its own unique scenario. So Anacortes provides its own senior center services and receives money from the county currently. Mount Vernon has a situation where they don't own the building. We're lucky that we do own the building. Burlington and Sedro-Woolley are pretty similar in that we both own the building, and we're both receiving services from the county. So at least initially, we've reached out to Burlington and had some preliminary conversation about at least trying to work together between the two cities, perhaps with Mount Vernon as well, depending on if they're able to come to the table. So the city's negotiation on who provides the service, how it's provided, is an important piece of this. If we could get enough partners together, we could do the service more cost effectively than the county did, because the county's been running its senior centers like they're all independent cities, which is like just independent centers, which is not efficient at all. So our center, for example, has a full-time employee and then has a number of backup employees that our full-time employee has to call. And by the way, Ellen's here. Thank you for being here. So if there are detailed questions about the senior center, Ellen has joined us as well tonight to help with those. But she's got backup employees who she will call to come in and fill in. If the staff were shared amongst the senior centers in the county, you would not have to have that situation. You would actually be able to have somebody from Burlington come over and cover, or have somebody from Mount Vernon come over and cover, and vice versa. So you can do this much more efficiently. For whatever reason, when the county has done these types of deals, they just have not looked at what are called economies of scale. When you have more people, you have more flexibility, and you can do it more cost effectively. So there are opportunities in potentially working with the other cities that we can explore. And we have some time on that one. I mean, more time than the other things. We have to figure it out by the beginning of next year, but we do have some time to figure it out. We would need to have this resolved, though. I did put some targets in here. We had some public comment about wanting deadlines and kind of decision points, and so on each of these things. I did put some general targets. These things will move. When you're trying to collaborate with NWRC, a kind of unknown organization, and the county and multiple cities, you don't fully control the timeline, so it's not like just something we're trying to execute. But I did put some relative timelines in here. So like contract for the meal program, that one needs to begin July 1st, and I'm looking for my deadline. I think end of April. That's what I said. That would be ideal, and hopefully we don't get any closer than that to the actual time when the meals are no longer going to be covered. So we need to get that done. There will be Meals on Wheels and some other things covered for sure by NWRC. So it's not like everything's at stake, but we've been received outreach from NWRC regarding what the city's financial commitment could be, and we haven't given them a concrete answer because we don't know what kind of money we're exactly talking about yet. We've just said we have money in the budget to support meals, and we're leaving it at that until we hear more from them. So those are kind of the four areas. I broke them down a little bit more with some recommendations a little later in the memo. So the county's ILA extension, like I said, we're working on that right now. Should have something back in front of you shortly. As quick as I can, you will have it. The meal program negotiation, that one's going to be ongoing. I'm trying to get into the actual selection of the new provider with NWRC. I haven't really heard back from them on that, but it feels like if the cities are paying the bill, the city should actually be at the table to be a part of the meal, so to speak. So I don't know if I'll be successful in that, but I definitely want to get more direct engagement with them. So we're working on that, but that's the biggest financial impact to the city I see potentially in this whole scenario. County funding agreement negotiations, they've laid out some options. Sounds like maybe we could present some options back to them. That's the other reason collaborating with the other cities is potentially really good, because some of those could be really powerful. But we'll know more after the 16th when we meet with Commissioner Wiesen. And then cities negotiating, this is going to be an ongoing piece of it. What can we do with other cities or not? And continue to work with it. It sounds like there's potential with Burlington. One of the big factors is Burlington has a commercial kitchen, and we do not, and the cost of upgrading a kitchen are substantial. I was talking with Nathan about that, and it's probably upwards of $70,000 to $100,000, for us to look at doing that. So that's a whole separate discussion, and if we can partner and collaborate, we can be a lot more cost effective than that. We're not recommending that, I mean, it's always an option to do nothing. If we do nothing here, we won't have a senior center and we will have a big hole to fill. So we're not recommending that whatsoever. But I did call that out in the memo just to give you a full policy analysis. What I did do is what we did with District 8, we created some guiding principles that really helped with those negotiations. So I drafted some of those for your consideration. And I'd love to have a conversation about anything tonight, but certainly those things as well. To hopefully get us going in a forward direction. Certain things need to move quickly, other things we have a little more time on, but we want to be thoughtful about everything. So with that, I'd turn it back to the council. If you want, I can walk you through the guiding principles, if that would be helpful. We can do that, but they are in the document, and I thought it might just be a good opportunity to open it up.
Okay, Councilman Lavaca has a
Thank you.
question.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for your passion on this. It means a lot, not just to me, and you got my full support on pushing very hard to get this through, but to the community as well, to know that you're on it. So it is probably one of the biggest things that's affected our community in a long time. I would say, even in the flood range, right? Because, or more people will be affected by this. It's surprising that was on the chopping block for the county and that it kind of dumped it on the cities and that it's very likely that it could fall off. We have the largest elderly population in the state with our county, and we definitely need to solve this challenge. And so having a seat at the table, knowing that we have somebody at the table is going to make a big difference. I think it's going to put some minds at ease. I think that we, as a council want to see Sedro-Woolley, succeed in that. And it's not just the city limits, it's kind of the region around. Obviously, there's these people that live in the region that might utilize those services. It would be important to know what the cost per mil is, as you said. I'm surprised they didn't keep any demographics on any of that stuff. But if we know that, then at the very least, we can get, Michelina's mills and get something to the doors so that way the food banks or they have enough to get by as we work this through. Building a full-size kitchen with an upgrade of $70,000 to $100,000 is a lot, but it's also something that would benefit for a long time. And it might be something in the council strategic fund that in an emergency, that's why we have that money set aside. These people can't just go on the street and hold a sign. We've put a lot more money into the homeless situation. Not everybody that's homeless is there. Obviously, a lot of them aren't there because they want to be there, but there's been a lot of money put into people who need a roof over their head while they're deciding not to use drugs anymore. And people like this don't have a choice to go out there with a sign. They don't have a choice to get a sleeping bag. They've built this city. They've helped build our nation. And we just got to do everything we can for them. I mean, pull all stops out. Make sure that that's taken care of if we can. So that would be my thought is like if we need to build a full-size kitchen and help other communities as well, that's great. Get a couple going, but at least make sure that the people who've worked so hard to build this community are taken care of. And thank you so much for your passion again.
Okay, Councilman.
Yes, Charlie, I also want to thank you for your hard work on this very complicated and to many of our citizens frightening situation. I've said this before, but when I was door knocking for my campaign, I met a lot of senior citizens my age who were struggling just to eat, and I know that that's important to our dining and for Meals on Wheels, and I strongly support continuing both for the citizens of Sedro-Woolley. Now, how you do it, that's the question, because, and I think it's a really good idea that you get involved with NWRC and be at the table with them. And I think we also should probably hear from our seniors at some point on this, give them the opportunity to come before us if they want to and tell, let us know what they think. But, until I see the details, working together, working with Burlington, I don't know. You're just going to have to fight through it. I do think we should go forward on that first one. I don't see the point of spending a lot of time on that because the ones that are really problematic are the later issues of funding. So, thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of great work on this, Charlie. You and I had a good conversation earlier about, what what my priorities were specifically. I'm hearing a lot of the same things up here tonight from everybody else. This is a problem that, you know, started materializing probably back in June, when they first started having their budget conversation, and we kind of had the inkling that it was coming our way. And the fact that this was one of the first things that they decided to cut is nothing short of disappointing. So what I think we should also do is get this interlocal in place to ensure those services go through the end of '26 for operations, the one problem out of the four. And I think moving forward, I don't think that I think that after the ILA is done, funding operations, just operations, is going to be a problem that we will be able to solve as a city by ourselves. We can do that. That is something that we, you know, absolutely must do as a city. Moving on to the nutrition program, I was having a discussion about this, and the Skagit Council on Aging might be another good resource that we could tap into. Looking at the nutrition program, I forget who the money comes from federally that goes to Northwest Regional Council that gets doled out to the county for it might be Department of Agriculture. I don't know who that grant is from. You might know. Would you know?
It's either the Older Americans Act.
That's the one. That's the one. Yep.
That's who the Northwest Regional Council is the holder of the contract for this county.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the money from the Older Americans Act.
Okay. Yeah. That's the exact one. Thank you for that information.
I think someone was speaking and I couldn't hear.
Nora, it was the Older Americans Act.
Could someone repeat what was just said?
Yep.
Sorry.
The Older Americans Act is where the
For
money comes
the-
from. Yep.
For the nutrition program through the regional council, Northwest Regional Council,
That's correct.
is that right?
That's
Okay, cool.
correct.
Got it, thanks.
Thanks. So I know that RFP closed today. We don't know what the results are yet. You know, there might be something in there that's very promising, and, you know, we can all breathe a sigh of relief and then work towards what additional funding required by the city to hopefully not have a reduction in that service. Because I've heard, you know, maybe we'll do frozen meals a couple days a week, or maybe we'll do this, or maybe we'll do that. But if there was no reduction, that would be the target, obviously. Now, I did bring up some funding options that the city could go through. Obviously, we have a general fund, but there might be some restricted fund options that we can use based on the fact that these meals are for people on fixed and low income. They are for the seniors. Can you, if you had a chance to look into that, is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, I think you had a question about whether 1590 operating funds could be used, for example, for this kind of service, particularly for the meals program. And we have put in a request for the state auditor's office. It's really in a gray area. It is not a clear cut absolutely, and it's not a clear cut no. So we're asking them as the authority on this stuff in the state, because we're going to get audited at some point on that stuff, and we want to be in the clear, particularly if we were to spend, you know, $100,000 a year on it. So we're looking into that. We'll let you know as soon as we get the answer, but it could take the auditor's office a little bit of time to get back to us.
Okay, I appreciate this, but this is something that, as Councilman Lowak has said, this is one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in recent history that we need to rise to, and we need to come up with a solution for all of this. And I know you've been doing a great job. I like the guiding principles. It looks great. You know, and it worked well with District 8. I'm sure it'll work well again. Otherwise, you know, we wouldn't be trying it. But now, based on so some of the partnerships, City of Anacortes has a beautiful model that they're using right now, and they are getting money back from the county, and we might be getting money back from the county for how long, we don't know, because, you know, we're kind of waiting on them for everything with this problem. But I like their model because they are, besides the meals, they are self-contained, and they have a beautiful senior center. It's right next to the YMCA. I mean, Anacortes, they have it figured out, and I think we can get there too. The elephant in the room with this entire problem is clearly the fact that Mount Vernon doesn't own their own building, and that's kind of the hang up on with like the numbers that we got from the county and their estimations per cost of running each facility and the in-kind contributions, and it gets muddled up. So I know you're really good at this kind of stuff. If, when we have our next discussion on this, if we could streamline something more of like Sedro-Woolley specific for like, how much would it cost exactly for, you know, we have one full-time employee, how can we get that employee? I know we had that discussion too about, you know, the HR background of poaching people from other organizations and, you know, doing all those other things. So that way we're not looking at well, it costs Burlington, Sedro-Woolley, and Mount Vernon all the same amount of money to run the senior centers. We all know that that's not true. So, but I do appreciate your work on this. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Kesty?
Thank you. I'd like to start off by saying thank you so much, because this means everything. And Nick hit it right. And I am disgusted with the county that this would be the first sort of thing that they would cut. When our seniors, who are their most vulnerable, put in their time, their money to our communities, and now the thought of them being in fear of where their next meal would come from is absolutely disgusting. And I would love to put their hearts and minds at ease that they will be taken care of, because this is our #1 priority. And so, you know, talking about the seniors coming in and different things, if we could just give that to them, we are going to do our very best, and I can promise that Sedro-Woolley is going to take care of what needs to be done. So thank you so much for that, Charlie.
Councilwoman Pedersen?
I'd like to kind of echo what the rest of the council is saying. I really appreciate our staff's work on this. I feel like everyone's kind of pulling in the same direction and trying to get consistent services for seniors moving forward. One of the things, and I think Alan mentioned this, one of the things that's been really hard for me to wrap my head around is all of the numbers that are being put out by the county, and kind of trying to get all of the financial data together and then comparing that with the service population data. And maybe this is something that we need to discuss at a later time, but my understanding is that the federal share of the meals program is about $1 million a year, and the county has been contributing $800,000 a year. Charlie, do you know if that's accurate? Am I understanding that correctly?
I heard a lower number today from the county for the federal share of the meals program, but I need to run some more numbers to be 100% on that. But definitely the county's contribution is $800,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah, and then I was looking at, since we don't have any data on, you know, how the service population is kind of distributed amongst the cities and in the rural areas, I looked at some data from the Census Bureau about the population over 60, which is kind of the service population we're looking at for these programs. And Sedro-Woolley in all of Skagit County, Sedro-Woolley has about 6% of the population over 60. Rural Skagit County is 51%. So I'm really concerned with the nutrition program, with the county pulling out entirely of funding that. I'm really concerned about the cost burden of the non-federal share there being split just between the cities. That's a major concern of mine. And I just wanted to point that out because I know we're still in negotiation with the cities, and it sounds like we're still talking to some of the commissioners about how they want to move forward with this funding. Another thing that I was really interested in was hearing from the seniors. We've received dozens of public comments from seniors who are really passionate about wanting to make sure they're, not just they're receiving their meals and their social time and activities in the senior center and their opportunity to volunteer in this community-based activity, but also for their friends and relatives and that sort of thing. It's really great to see all of those comments. I really appreciate that. But I do think we need a more formal needs assessment to be done. It sounds like maybe that hasn't been done recently. I think that needs to be done on a regular basis moving forward, just to make sure we're keeping up with the needs of the seniors and maintaining the service levels that we need to be. My last thing I wanted to ask about was, because it sounds like Ellen is there. Hi, Ellen. I wanted to hear about our Senior Center Advisory Board, which I think we talked about a little bit when I came to visit just after starting my term.
You'll have to,
Ellen, could I get you to come to the mic, please, and make sure the blue light is on?
It is. Hi.
Perfect, thank you.
Our Senior Center Advisory Board President is sitting right over there, Chuck Steele, and he's been very involved in the Senior Center, driving Meals on Wheels and being our board president, along with his lovely wife, Bernie. I think, Chuck, you're going to a meeting with SCOA and the Northwest Regional Council on Friday, are you? Yes. Charlie, are you going to that meeting at all?
I would love to go to that meeting. I need a little more information on where and when.
Okay, well, Burlington Senior Center? I don't know, I wasn't invited to go. I mean, I know that it's happening, because they are also very passionate about trying to solve this problem, SCOA, and the people that are on the SCOA board, so. But they've invited all the Senior Center Advisory Board presidents to come and join in the meeting, so. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Charlie and the city staff and certainly the council members for all your support in the past. And going forward, I have complete faith in all of you to help solve this problem. And I'm extremely thankful, and I'm trying to be really uplifting to the seniors and tell them that I know that Sedro-Woolley Senior Center is very important to you all, so. I'll
Actually,
do what
Ellen,
I can to
I
help.
just can't imagine what this is like for you, because you are there every day. You have been there how many years now?
It'll be 30 starting in August.
That's right. So for you, this is a family. These are people that you deeply care about, and you've been organizing programs, and you have listened to their needs, and I know that you've taken care of little disputes, almost like little high school disputes, but you have taken care of that because you really care about the people that are there, and so I cannot imagine what this is like for you. Very disheartening and probably emotionally anguishing.
Yes, and yes.
Yes.
But still trying to remain optimistic and positive, and I think that something really good is going to come of this. When you talk about building a central kitchen to service, I mean, that would, pie in the sky dreams. I mean, they do happen. And certainly we've been operating out of the Burlington kitchen for a long time, and it's woefully inadequate to what the operation is right now. But I don't know what all of this looks like, but it could look a lot better. I mean, I like to think that maybe Mount Vernon is going to get a brand new senior center that will serve their constituents over there. We've got a good senior center. We're was built to be a senior center. So it's awesome. So a lot of conversations and a lot of ideas, a lot of smart people are working on this. And so, thank you.
I always like to see it as an opportunity to do, out of things that are really tragic or hard, oftentimes good things can come from them, even better things than what were before.
Yeah,
And that's what I really believe about all of this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Nora? Councilwoman
Whoops, I
Pedersen?
forgot to turn off my mute. I just
Okay.
had one more question for Ellen, sorry. When I came to speak with you at the senior center a couple months ago, you were talking about, I think, a salad bar that we have at our Sedro-Woolley Senior Center that is kind of over and above the nutrition program that's received in some of the other facilities in the county. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's really important, kind of tying into what Nick was saying about the community kitchen. We are providing additional meal services or nutrition services in our facility, I believe. And I want to make sure we continue to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, the salad bar operation actually is in Anacortes, Burlington, and Sedro-Woolley. It's only Mount Vernon that doesn't have that as an option. It was part of the nutrition program's expansion. And so it's actually really important because a lot of seniors just have the soup and salad sometimes. And I know there's been ideas floated out there that with our reduction in service, possibly to keep the salad bar and soup going if they don't have a main entree every day. So I don't know what any of that looks like. But the only thing that isn't part of the nutrition program is coffee, which the advisory board pays for, and dessert, believe it or not. And the seniors really like their dessert, but we do offer fruit as dessert and dessert once in a while. Did that answer your question, Nora?
Yes, and I think that's all of my questions for now. Thank you so much for attending, and thanks to Chuck also for being here.
Councilman Lavaca?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, ask actually, Ellen, if you would just let them know that we do have their back and that the seniors of our community and all around, have built this community up for the kids to grow into adults, to continue that tradition for the kids to be next. And so nothing but the highest respect, and that we're sorry that, or I am at least sorry that this stress has been on them. I go to a church where there's a number of elderly people who've expressed their concerns greatly, and I take that to heart. And so they mean so much to me. They really do. Thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, exactly. I work very close with Jackie Crest over in Burlington, and it's very somber over there much of the time. Not so much recently, but in the past couple of months, as you probably know, it's been a little bit bad news every day, all day, and so I think we're coming on the upward swing here. One thing in the developing a second kitchen, it does sound like a good idea. There are other avenues that we can go with that too. Primarily being that so the county owns that kitchen, and Burlington owns the building, but the county owns all the kitchen equipment, everything in there. It's all set up as a commercial kitchen, and the whole 9 yards. It costs probably $200,000 to duplicate what the setup is over there. Now, I don't know what the county would be willing to do if they're negotiating with having a nonprofit takeover, if they're just like, we are relinquishing all this equipment. It's yours to maintain and operate now. Duplicating a second kitchen would also be duplicating the workforce, which I think is the driving force behind why this program is as expensive as it is. If we have two kitchens cooking with two staffs cooking, it's a little bit more cost effective, it seems to have, because this program would not work without the volunteers first and foremost. It absolutely would not work without the drivers that volunteer their time. bringing the hot meals over here and then doing the service, all that other stuff. I think once we know what the service is going to be based on what the RFP yields, then I think we should discuss, hey, maybe we just have to cut everybody else out and it's just going to be Sedro-Woolley and we need to make our own kitchen, or we need to lease one local, which there are several options within the city that we could lease a kitchen from. The other point to wit is there was a fantastic idea brought up by one of our local citizens here in town about forming a commission based on this exact issue and supporting our seniors, and basing that commission off of the multiple robust service organizations we have here in the city. You know, we have the American Legion, the Lions Club, Sir Optimist, Knights of Columbus, Eagles Club. I'm missing like 7 or 8. Rotary. Yeah. That's a big one, I heard. Yeah. And forming a commission with, you know, a representative from each one of those to, you know, meet once a month, probably with a member of staff or something like that, and, you know, come up with fundraising goals and find areas where we're missing funding or missing, most importantly, volunteerism. And that's an idea that we could plant a seed and, you know, in the next year, 2, 3, 4, watch it grow into something bigger. But I thought that was a fantastic idea. You know, because we have commissions on other things that'd be good to have eyes on, especially with the service groups who have the capacity for doing work. So thanks.
Okay. All right.
Okay, council, with that, I've got the guiding principles in front of you. I don't necessarily need you to take action on them, but if you have any heartburn over things that are in here, this is pretty much what I'm going to go out and work on. So it'd be good to know that before I just launch out into the world on this. Also, there are comments made about engaging with seniors. I appreciate that. I've had some conversation with other council members as well on that topic. I didn't want to do that before I met with you because that could get awkward. So I want to make sure that the work we're doing on your behalf ends up resulting in what you want to see as an outcome. And I've heard pretty clearly what you want to see as an outcome tonight. So that's very helpful, and I appreciate that. And we'll get to work and continue to update you. This thing's evolving almost by the hour. So I'll do my best to communicate with you as we go, and look forward to having the amendment in front of you for the ILA next week, and the new ILA for 6 months in front of you as soon as possible. And then I'll keep you updated on the meal program negotiation and the other stuff that's going on as we move forward. There'll be another ILA in all likelihood with the county on funding. So that will be kind of the next one, I think, to come along. And then the last one will likely be anything we do in partnership with other cities. So more to come on this.
Thank
A lot
you.
more to come.
So society is judged by the way it treats its seniors and its youth. So.
Right.
All right, moving on to the last item of the night, which is a briefing on the Central Skagit Library District. And I believe, Kelly, this is you.
Yes, good evening, council. I think Woody's going to pull up a PowerPoint presentation. I've included a document in the council packet, but this PowerPoint just kind of summarizes some of those items. So just a quick summary, the Central Skagit Rural Partial County Library District, hopefully I got all those words in the correct order, giving me a thumbs up over there, commonly known as the Central Skagit Library, was created in 2012, and in 2017, Sedro-Woolley entered into a partnership agreement with the library district to provide library services and to construct the new library within the city. The library district generally serves the area of the Sedro-Woolley School District, but the library district actually excludes the city of Sedro-Woolley. So we're not technically a part of the district. You know, we all live in Sedro-Woolley. The library district is not on our property tax bill. But we do have an agreement with the library district. We have an interlocal agreement with them that allows our residents to use the services of the library, and also outlines the payment arrangement to the library. So the city pays the library annually based on a couple of factors. So we first take the library's levy rate. So in 2025, that was 0.2446 per $1,000 of assessed value. So that's, you know, about 24 cents. And then multiplies that by the city's assessed value, divided by 1,000, as that's how property rates are done. So in 2025, the city paid the library district $474,000 minus the debt on the library. So the city actually holds the debt on the library, and we make that debt payment and then take that out of what we would pay the library. So the check we wrote to the library was $121,000. The city is paying the same levy rate as the rest of the library district. However, the only caveat to that is that our property value is going up at a higher percentage than the property value outside of city limits in the library district. So you can see in that smaller font below, the library rate from 24 to 25 actually decreased a little less than 1%, 0.77%. And that's likely because as assessed values increase and your levy only increases by 1%, the actual amount people are paying, the rate ends up decreasing. But our property values within the city limits increased 4.4% in between 2024 and 25. So we ended up paying the library district 3.6% more than the previous year. And that will continue in 2026. You can see the library district property tax, the levy rate did decrease by 1.84%, but ours increase, our assessed value increased by 6.5%. So in 2026, we're going to pay 4.5% more than we did in 2025. And this is just strictly the math of it and how it is written into the interlocal agreement. So just wanted to give a quick reminder before we talk about a potential levy lid lift for the library, what a levy lid lift is. So taxing jurisdictions, including the library, the city, have a regular property tax levy. Again, like the actual dollar amount we can collect. And typically that can go up by 1% plus new construction. And if a taxing jurisdiction wants to increase it by more than that, and they're not already at their statutory cap, has to go out to the voters for a levy lid lift to increase above that 1%. So the library district is considering going out for a levy lid lift. They've been great partners with the city and wanted to communicate that as timely as possible. So doing some analysis on that, trying to find out what that means for the city, and if the city didn't take any action, what that would mean to the payment that the city pays to the library district for those services. So if the library went out for the levy lid lift to voters in 2027 and it got approved, that would be implemented in 2028. And we would see a significant increase in the amount we would have to pay the library based on the interlocal agreement. So you can see in 27, the total payment would be $515,000, but with a levy lid lift, it would be over $1 million. And I should also preface all of these numbers by saying anything out past 2026 is an estimate. We can't know for sure like how much the library levy rate will change, how much our assessed value will change, how much the library district will go out for the levy, like what dollar amount the library will go out for. So these are just giving our best estimates, so they can change. But obviously a significant increase like that in the city's expense warrant some additional evaluation and consideration for options for the city. The city wouldn't have any additional funding to make that payment. It would come from existing city funding unless we're unaware of a funding source comes up. So included in here, we've given some options.
I'm sorry, Kelly, you go ahead.
Can we pause for questions?
Oh yeah, I was just about to ask. Yep.
Okay. If you had, did you want to say a couple more things and then we can pause?
No, I was just going to say before I got into the options, any questions about any of this so far?
Okay.
Good timing. Go ahead, Councilor Henderson.
Okay, so first question is, if the library district goes out for a levy lid lift and Sedro-Woolley is not included in that library district, we don't get to vote. Our citizens don't get to vote, the ones that we represent.
Anyone who is a resident of Sedro-Woolley does not get to vote on that.
Okay, and then second question, I know that we have the debt service, which is about $352,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
If we exited this interlocal, then we wouldn't be on the hook for that $1 million a year, right?
That's a legal question about how we would exit the interlocal agreement.
Because I'm looking at the price that we have to pay, doubling, not doubling, more than doubling, from $162,000 to $651,000. Now I know that we're only accurate through 26, but those are staggering numbers. That's our senior nutritional program right there for the county, right? So
The interlocal agreement doesn't have an end date, I don't believe. So we couldn't simply say the interlocal agreement has reached its end and we're not going to renew it. I'll let legal answer the question if Dan or Nikki is on.
They're not on during a study session, but I'll just take a quick shot at this. So, conversations with just staff at the library district and with legal counsel and others, the thought is that if we were to annex into the library district, then we would have a new interlocal agreement that would essentially just handle the debt service, because it can be pretty tricky to transfer debt. But essentially, the library district would pay the city then, and we would still pay the debt. But we wouldn't have this payment to the library district for services in the current arrangement we have, because they would be collecting the actual taxes from our residents, as opposed to having our residents, we collect taxes from them and then we pay it to the library district. So it'd be a different agreement going forward, but that all does have to be, worked out, negotiated.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to make sure, like, at the end of the day, whether or not we annexed in and exited the interlocal that we're currently in, what effect that would have on the taxpayers, whether it hits them immediately in the pocketbook or it does downstream with, us paying that much higher of a rate.
I think as Kelly gets in her options, you'll see there are various possibilities and policy options for the council to consider in terms of how that impact takes effect.
Thank you.
Councilman Cock?
Yeah, I just had a question about debt service. Is this, I guess since the library just opened in 2021, it's probably, many years into the future. Is this a loan or a municipal bond, or what is it?
I think it's a bond. But I can get back to you on the specifics.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what kind of bond it is. So, thank you.
Councilwoman Pedersen?
I just wanted to ask, my understanding is that the reason residents of Sedro-Woolley are not in the library district is because that was like the result of a vote. We voted and decided we didn't want to be in the library district. I just wanted to make sure that's the correct understanding, and then if it is, ask when that vote took place.
I don't believe there was. The library director is here, so he may be able to answer that.
So
more
Dan
directly.
Owens is coming to the mic.
Yes, thank you. A couple of the details that have been asked, I believe the bond is through 2039. It's a 20-year bond, I believe, was issued in 2019. And when library districts are incorporated by default, by state law, they do not when library districts are formed, they do not include the incorporated areas of the district when a rural library district. So Sedro-Woolley was not included in the original vote, so they are not part of the district, and neither is Lyman or Hamilton. The towns and cities are not included. So an annexation vote has actually never occurred. So cities and towns can annex in after the incorporation of the district if they so choose. The current interlocal does actually include a provision that foresees a discussion happening with that. I think it's 2031 or 32 that they say by this time the city and the library district will have that discussion. So it is something that was talked about at the time. But to give an example, I believe the Upper Skagit Library District formed, and then the next year, I believe, the town of Concrete voted to annex in, but that vote has actually not happened here.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. Councilman Lavaca?
So part of it was how long the bond was for, but 2039, that's pretty awesome. A lot, not too far out, right? I mean, we just started it, but it's 25% through or more. And so the other question was, I guess, going into the options, and that's what I should do. I should let you go through the options, and then I'll come back with my question.
Okay. Thank you for all those clarifying questions. Thank you, Dan. So option one, sorry, there's lots of words on these next upcoming slides. So option one is the city annexing into the library district in 2027, and then potentially the library district having a levy lid lift in 2028. So with voter approval in November of 2026, so this year coming up pretty quick, the library or the city could annex into the library if approved by voters, and instead of Sedro-Woolley making payments to the library would receive funding directly from property tax. So Sedro-Woolley residents would see an additional line on their property tax bill for the library district. a property with an average home value of about $419,000 in 2026 would pay an additional $128 in property tax compared to 2027. And then again, potentially with the library district going out to a vote in November of 2027 for that levy lid lift. And then the voters from the entire library district, including Sedro-Woolley residents, would be represented in that levy lid lift vote, if approved. Option 2 is very similar to option 1. This, with the exception of reducing the city's budgeted levy in 2027 to offset the library district's budgeted levy. So this option offsets the city's budgeted levy. We put in the 2025 amount because it keeps going up. We kind of put 2025 as our baseline. So the city could decrease its budgeted levy by $474,000. So that's what we paid out to the library in 2025. We could not collect that amount in future years, and then that is, or a number close to that, not exactly that number, would then be collected by the library district. One note on this is our interlocal agreement isn't directly tied to property tax, although the calculation uses property tax numbers in calculations. That's not the determined source of funding. We can use any unrestricted funding the city has to pay the library district cost, or the amount we have to pay. So with this option 2, it wouldn't completely like net to zero for the taxpayer, but the additional cost is estimated at $10.62 a year. This is a year for the taxpayer, and then they would collect money. The library district would collect money on their own for that. Let's see. Option 3 is the library levy lid lift occurs first in 2028, and then the city annexes into the library district in 2029. The city would have 1 year of increased payments, so 1 year of almost a little over $1 million in payment from the city to the library district before being annexed in. Again, the city wouldn't have any additional revenue to offset that additional expense. The city would either have to make payment through our reserves or significantly cut back expenditures in 2028 to fund that payment. And with this option, you also run the risk that the voters wouldn't approve the annexation. Option 4, same as option 3, although we could again reduce our budgeted levy at least to partially offset that additional amount from the library district's levy. And then option 5, again, like Charlie had mentioned with the senior center, just to give a clear perspective of all the options, although we would not recommend option 5, is to take no action at all and to continue with the interlocal agreement, which would result in making those significant payments over time, and they would also increase over time. Starting at $1,004,000, the next year it would be $1,034,000. So it would result in significant, we'd have to make some significant cuts in our expenditures to make that payment, those payments. Just to give a quick analysis of those, all of those options, in options 1 through 4, we would dissolve the current interlocal agreement and create a new interlocal agreement with the library district, as Charlie mentioned. And the primary purpose of that would outline the debt payment. And, you know, just depending on which option ends up going, we would just negotiate with the library. You know, what's their debt capacity? Could they take over the debt, or more likely, would they just, would the city retain the debt and the library pay the city to cover that debt payment? And again, in all of those options, after the city was annexed, the city would no longer pay the library district. There would be no payment. So here is just a quick summary of what the total costs would be to taxpayers for each option over a 3-year period. So this is total costs in 27, 28, and 29, what the library levy would collect, what the city levy would collect, and then estimated impacts to an individual property owner. And then here, this is the this is 2029. So in all of these options, everything would kind of be settled. You know, we would, every option except option 5, we would be annexed in to the library. The library would have gotten the levy lid lift, and 2029, this is what each jurisdiction would collect in property tax, and the impact to an individual home for just one year. I think this gives a little bit more perspective of like long-term, like 2029 and after.
Kelly, I have a quick question.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
no, actually, Nick was first.
Oh, okay.
So I was just going to ask, are you willing to take questions
Oh,
right now?
yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Councilman Lavaca.
I got 2 questions, Kelly.
Sure.
When was this discovered, and who discovered that we'd all of a sudden be paying all this money if we didn't do something about the interlocal?
Well, the library, Dan Owens, I don't know if he talked to me first or Charlie first, but he brought up this to us, knowing that a positive relationship with the city and good communication would be necessary and important. So after that discussion, we kind of worked up the numbers here.
Well, Dan Owens, I want to thank you very much so. You could have had a wonderful library, you know, golden books, you know, of director. But yeah, that's definitely appreciate your due diligence in recognizing the trend and calling out to say, hey, you might be coming to a cliff and you might want to think about putting on the brakes. So.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned at my last presentation, we're in a deficit situation, and this is something, when I was hired, I talked to the board. So the Board of Trustees will decide whether to go for a levy lid lift at some point. And I think in response to your question, I said their target generally has been 2027 because of our financial reserves and when we need to go for a levy lid lift, which we've never done. It's been 13 years. But the board loves serving the city. Many of them live in Sedro-Woolley, and we love serving the city of Sedro-Woolley. So it is definitely something, when I was doing my initial meetings with stakeholders, to say, this is something the board talked about with me in my hiring process. So we're one of the lowest rates in the state, levy rates, very close to the lowest. I don't think there's anybody below 20 cents. So it is something that would always have been, I think, envisioned in some way. The library, this is how library district levies work. But at the same time, we recognize that it imposes a burden to do things in 1 year. Like, that is a big deal. And so our board certainly recognizes that and wants to work cooperatively. And my last note will be, when talking with the board and looking at our financial numbers, the 45 cents that is definitely on the high end. It will be up to the board to decide what rate they want to pursue. So the maximum legal rate is 50 cents. And I will make a recommendation to the board, but that 45 cents is on the high end, which very sensibly is what is used for projections, but it may not be 45 cents. It depends on what our finances look like this year and next year, and ultimately what the Board of Trustees decide to recommend. Thank you.
Right,
Well,
thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much, and let the board know. Very much so, thank you.
Councilman Clark?
Yes, just so I'm not confused on this, so when the city collects the tax money for the library, does that include residents of Sedro-Woolley, or it does not?
The city does not directly collect property tax for the library. So the city collects general fund property tax, just like the city collects general sales tax, utility tax, any general purpose. And then we have entered into this interlocal agreement to use, that some of our funds to enter into this agreement. So we do not collect any property tax designated for the library. We do not collect any property tax for property outside of city limits.
Okay, so I'm still a little confused. So the tax money directly from, maybe the county does it or whoever, for the library, is that charged to the citizens of Sedro-Woolley at all?
So the property that is in the library district gets charged directly. So if you live in Big Lake, you, on your property tax bill, you have the library district. You pay the county pays the library district. The citizens in Sedro-Woolley are not in, or the city limits of Sedro-Woolley is not in the library district. So properties in Sedro-Woolley do not have a library district line on their property tax.
So if, for example, the city, and this is an interesting concept to me, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. If the city annexed itself into the library district, then it would be the first time the residents of Sedro-Woolley actually paid taxes for the library, property taxes for the library. Is that correct?
It'd be the first time they directly.
And to follow up on this, just to be fair, is I imagine, and it gets back to Nora talking about needs assessments, I imagine that the citizens of Sedro-Woolley are some of the most frequent users of the library. So, there's also a fairness issue there, but I have to say, as a communications professional for many years, trying to explain to people how to annex yourself into a library district would take a lot of communications work. So anyway, it's just very interesting, and I want to say I'm a frequent user. I've been to the library many times. It's always full of people, including adults and children. It has fabulous programs, and I think a town with an excellent library, it's an enormous asset.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Pedersen?
Thanks. And I wanted to thank Dan for his great presentation he gave to us. It was so great to hear about, all the great services that are provided in the library, the community space and everything like that, but then also the financials. And I felt really reassured seeing that presentation at how how well the library and the library board is managing their finances. Having said that, I do think we need to get this on the ballot in November. I'm really surprised to hear that the people of Sedro-Woolley haven't ever had the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, we'd like to be in the library district officially. And I think we need to let the voters decide on that as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Kesty?
I was just wondering, with all of this, when will you be bringing this back for us to want to vote or to talk about? Like,
It really depends on this conversation tonight. If council has a clear direction they want to go in, I would recommend moving forward with either option 1 or 2, because it provides the most financial stability and knowing what's coming. So if the library district does the levy lid lift first, and then we go out and ask voters to annex in, just the risk of that vote being no, and that just provides less financial stability for the city.
I guess I'm just kind of wanting like an ETA of like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you want this to be kind of buttoned up so that they can do what they need to do or whatever. Is that kind of, I mean, we would have to decide tonight. We can talk with legal about some more questions we might have.
Oh, no need to decide anything tonight. This is really like the deep dive of the information so far.
So there is time within, we have time to.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we don't have months because we need to get on the ballot and provide, Council Member Koch, I think, is correct that it is going to take some communication to say the library is in Sedro-Woolley, but you are not in the library district. I think that is going to take some work to understand.
Yeah, I had made the comment that I don't think any of the citizens know that they're not annexed in.
Right.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. So it looks like there's probably 2 different ballot measures that this all rests on, right? So the voters would have to annex into the library district, and then there would have to be a levy lid lift passed by the citizens that annexed in. And
Yeah, the second, if the council decides to take the route of annexing in on, putting it on the November 2026 ballot to be done in 2027, our part of that, the city's part of that decision-making, like city council, and that would be kind of the end of it for us, that the library district would then just run their own operations, but we just provided the additional information just for context, and just getting a better financial picture. But again, we would be kind of out of the decision making about the levy lid lift and.
and then
Councilman Koch? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just had one more question. It was about our debt service. So we got about just somewhere around $4.5 million left to pay on that by the end of 2039. So in 13 years, does the library district, would they provide back to the city like an in-kind contribution for the use of the building then? Because it's an asset that the city.
I think that would be all a part of the negotiations about how you divide that up. We've had a lot of discussion about the percentage, the 40 or the 59-41% split. So that would have to all be worked out in this as well. And we don't quite have all those details worked out.
Because it kind of feels like it's, 6 of one, half dozen of another, right? We're either as a city annexing, and then each of us here live in the city, so we'd each be paying that line item for the library district, or the citizens of Sedro-Woolley aren't directly paying for that, but we're still paying for it with their money, right? Like with the option 5 of doing nothing, yeah, we're still paying for it with their money that you know,
Yeah, I
that the
mean,
city takes.
Option 5 is the property owners in Sedro-Woolley, the total we collect is not going to go up by $500,000, but our bill to the library district would. So, I mean, not using all the exact numbers in here, but, you know, if we're paying close to $500,000 for library services now, if we do nothing and the library district is successful with their levy lid lift, we'll be paying over $1 million, but we won't have any incoming revenue for that. So the citizens of Sedro-Woolley will be paying $1 million for the library, and we will have to cut $1 million or $500,000 from somewhere else to pay for that.
Or we just bleed money, right? Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We can't. The city does not have the financial reserves for, I would say, smartly more than a year to pay use $500,000 of reserves to pay for library services.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Cock?
Yeah, so, you know, just philosophically, I think that the citizens of Sedro-Woolley should be given an opportunity to decide whether or not to be part of the library district. But if we did move forward with putting it on the ballot, when does that have to happen by? It's probably coming up pretty fast, right?
Typically, the November ballot deadline is in August, so we have a little bit of time, but we don't have endless time, as Kelly was saying. There's also another piece of this, which is the library district. If we indicate we want to annex into the library district and put that on the ballot, the library district also has to agree that they will accept us if that ballot measure is approved. And we have some early indication that that is not going to be a problem, but that is a part of the process.
Are you saying, okay, I guess I'm a little confused again. So if it went on the ballot to include the city of Sedro-Woolley in the library district, would that be voted on by the citizens of Sedro-Woolley, or the entire library district and the citizens of Sedro-Woolley?
Just the citizens of Sedro-Woolley.
Okay.
So what I was getting at is the library board itself has
the
to
board.
also
I get
agree that they're okay putting it on the ballot if we want to annex in.
Right.
So once those two steps are in place, it goes on the ballot, and then the citizens of Sedro-Woolley vote.
Okay. Councilman Lavaca?
Madam Mayor, just one last comment on that. For that annexation, I would definitely, it'd be wise to point out tonight's conversation and the fact that the library recognized where the city could have been stuck with a pretty large bill and brought that forth. So they're working in the best interest of Sedro-Woolley, as they have been, and that was a clear demonstration of that. So that, a way to market that. I don't know if we can do that through, council situation, since it would be a ballot measure, but it is appreciated. So
We can provide information. We can provide information, and we definitely will, but we can't campaign.
yeah, but I think the information would be helpful. I think it would be helpful for the citizens to realize as they weigh out that decision that we got good partners here. Thank you.
Also, to get at Councilmember Casty's comment on, kind of what's next in the conversation. One thing for the council to mull over is if you're, leaning towards putting this on the ballot, really think about which options, you would gravitate towards. We will need direction on that before we have any kind of final action from the council.
Councilman Casty?
It's nice to know that we have time, that we can think this through, talk to legal, and look at all of our options before having to make a decision.
Councilman Cox?
And I want to reiterate to Dan, thank you for letting us know that this is on the horizon instead of us being surprised by it. Thank you again.
Okay, good deal. All right, with that, we have finished up new business. We're going to move in now to public comments. It's 8:20. I will open up public comments. Please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and if you could let us know how you're affiliated with the city, that would be great as well. So is there anybody here for public comment? Thanks, Kelly. There you go. Carl DeYoung.
Good evening, council and mayors. My name is Carl DeYoung, and I live at 1101 Fidalgo Street, and I have volunteered at the Senior Center for more than a decade as a licensed food handler, and my wife Ellen is a driver for Meals on Wheels, also as a volunteer. I support approving the Senior Center guiding principles tonight. This is like repairing a bridge while people are still driving across it. You keep a lane open and you do the work in phases. First, keep 2026 running. The packet says Skagit County proposed ending the current interlocal agreement in now 118 days, and that the county is open to a July through December agreement for senior services without meals. The request is when that comes back, include a plain language, one-page scope and cost summary so the people know what is changing. And then second, let's solve meals. The packet says the county is removing $800,000 in funding, so this is where the budget could go sideways. And that Sedro-Woolley share could be around $150,000 to $200,000 per year. The packet also says the meals request for proposal closed today, March 4th, and service must begin on July 1st to avoid any gap in services. So before the city of Sedro-Woolley commits major dollars, please require two things. One, at least 3 priced service levels from the RFP results, and 2, 12 months of meals usage data by geography, the city versus the unincorporated. So cost sharing is based on facts. And then third, renegotiate county funding for 2027 and beyond. County Public Health recommends option 4, and the guiding principles call for a multi-year deal with a 12-month or longer termination clause. Please bring back a short term sheet that makes option 4 concrete. The dollars, how much amount changes over time, and the city's employer obligations. And then fourth, build the city-led regional model. Staff says working with other cities is likely to produce the best deal, and the packet notes Burlington's role as the central kitchen as of today. So please return with 2 or 3 governance options and a basic estimates of the savings. So in closing, I support the 4-track approach. I'm asking for one discipline. Have the price menu, the usage data, and the option 4 term sheet in hand before taking an open-ended exposure, especially on meals. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay, it's 8:24. I will close public comment. We have come to the end of our meeting. I just want to remind everybody that this weekend we spring ahead. So pay attention to your clocks, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.